Okay, we are going to get started. All right, so this is week 2 of Intro to Pilates series. And we are going to focus on some bigger movements today. Last week we talked about focusing on the difference between spinal mobility and spinal stability, and how to achieve both. So now we're going to put those into practice in some of the Pilates movements that we do frequently in class. So you are going to start like you did last time, lying down on your mat. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to class.
Thank you.
No problem. I was just going to get started. So you are going to just start lying down on your mat and we can get moving. Okay. So go ahead and lie down on your mat with your knees bent and your feet flat. And we'll just do a little bit of a review of what we talked about last time, but we won't dwell on it too much. So you want to think about breathing and expanding your rib cage side to side towards the side seams of your shirt. You're going to think about expanding your belly upward and breathing all the way down into your pelvis, right? So your inhale is going to expand that whole space. And then your exhale is going to contract that whole space, right? And that's the breathing that we're going to try to achieve throughout all of our movements. And it will feel easy sometimes and it will feel not easy other times. But you just keep trying. And so we're going to think about also a little bit of like lightness underneath our low back, where we can't slide the hands all the way under the low back, but we can feel the fingertips kind of sneak inward towards the spine a little bit, but not meet each other, right? So that's a nice neutral and stable spine. You're going to try to keep it nice and stable through your breathing. You're going to take a deep inhale, and on your exhale, you're going to engage your belly, and you're going to lift your right leg to tabletop, which is knee over the hip and foot in front of the knee. So like a 90-degree angle at the knee. And you're going to lower that leg down. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. Exhale, float the left leg up to tabletop. And then lower that leg back down, right? You can continue, and you're going to alternate. You're going to put your hands on your hips, maybe, and you're just going to feel what's happening during the transition as one leg goes down and you switch to the other leg. Your goal is to keep this space as stable as possible, right? So you want to eliminate any kind of like teeter-tottering type movement in the pelvis. And try to engage your belly to keep your pelvis nice and stable. Good. Continue. And I want you to add your opposite arm to your leg lifting. So if your right leg is lifting to tabletop, you're going to lift your left arm straight up to the ceiling, and then both go back down. Same thing on the other side. Lift the left leg up and right arm, and back down. Good. So this is just a nice kind of like common movement pattern that we do all the time without thinking about it, right? Walking, running, like any kind of athletic activity, we use this cross-body pattern all the time. So this is a place where we can lie down and really think about the quality of that cross-body pattern so that we can build good patterns or better patterns when we are doing the things that we like doing and we don't necessarily have time to think about all of the little details, right? So you don't want to have to think about all this stuff when you're like running or playing soccer. You want to just be able to have a good pattern already established in your body. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And you're breathing and you're moving. You're letting your breath help you find stability through your core, which keeps your spine in that nice neutral position. You're going to do maybe one more or whatever you need to do to make yourself even. And then you're gonna pause with both arms and both legs down. Go ahead and reach your arms up to the ceiling. And then reach your arms overhead and try not to let your spine change, right? So when you reach the arms overhead, depending on how mobile or tight your shoulders are, you may feel the need to kind of move the rib cage to get the arms to go back. And you're just trying not to move your rib cage, and you're experimenting to see how far back your arms can go without letting the rib cage participate. And back up. And so this is spinal stability coming from the other end, right? We did legs, now we're doing arms. A couple more times. You're gonna exhale as you reach overhead maybe, and inhale to come back up maybe, right? But really you're just breathing and you're not holding your breath. That's the only rule, is no breath holding, just breathing. One more time. Reach overhead. And then arms back up to the ceiling. Good. Let your arms come down by your sides. And then you're gonna move your spine out of neutral on purpose, right? So you're gonna exhale and you're gonna tuck your tail under as you exhale, and you're gonna push your low back into the mat. And then untuck your tail and return to that neutral position where your low back finds a little arch and is a little bit lighter on the mat. And again, you're gonna exhale, tuck your tail under, find that your low back falls into the mat because your belly is engaging. And then untuck. Let's do this a few more times. So even though we're coming out of kind of the neutral spinal stability, we are keeping the spine supported and mobilizing it at the same time, right? So we spent last class finding how to do these two, finding out how to do these two things: spinal mobility with support and spinal stability. So here we are, mobilizing our spine, tucking the tail under and untucking. This time you're gonna tuck your tail under and you're gonna peel your hips up to the ceiling, reaching your knees over your toes and opening the front of your hips. And then roll down through your spine, bone by bone, until you can go all the way back down to the mat and find that nice neutral pelvis again, right? So same thing again. You're gonna tuck the tail under with your belly, and then you're gonna press down through the feet, use the back of your legs and your butt to lift your hips up to the ceiling. And then lower the hips all the way back down, rolling through your spine as best you can. You may just be identifying right now that there are some parts of your spine that feel pretty sticky and don't mobilize very well. That's okay. Super normal, right? You just kind of work with what you have and notice what your body does. Peel up. And then you're going to peel back down. Excellent. One more time. Tuck under, lift the hips up. Try to feel that the ribs are staying low as the hips lift up high, and that helps you feel your hamstrings and glutes more than your back, right? And then you're gonna peel all the way back down. You're gonna lengthen your legs out onto your mat so that they are long. And then we're gonna try to mobilize the spine from the other end, so from our head down to like our mid-back. So you're gonna take a deep inhale, you're gonna exhale, nod your chin towards your chest, and you're gonna begin to peel up to the tips of your shoulder blades. You're gonna press your arms down towards the floor. So it's like the beginning of a sit-up. It's like a really small sit-up. And then lower the spine back down and lift the arms up to the ceiling, and they can go overhead, they can go just straight up to the ceiling, whatever feels natural for you. Again, take a deep inhale. Exhale, nod chin towards chest, and curl up by dropping your ribs down into the mat, right? My head and chest lift because my ribs went down to propel me up. And then you're gonna lower head, neck, and chest and lift arms. Let's do that a few more times. Deep inhale and exhale, chin towards chest, drop the ribs and curl up. and hold it here. Deep inhale, and then exhale, lower yourself back down. And again, deep inhale and exhale, none of the chin and curl. Hold it here, deep inhale, and exhale, lower everything back down. Good. So we're gonna take that into a bigger spinal mobility. We're gonna roll all the way up to a seated position, right? So arms start straight up to the ceiling. You're gonna take a deep inhale, exhale, chin towards chest, drop the ribs, and roll your spine all the way up, trying to peel one little bone off the mat at a time, right? Let each little bone have its own moment. And then you're reaching forward over your thighs, over your toes, and you're gonna roll yourself back down. You're gonna scoop your tail under, set one little vertebra down on your mat at a time, and then lay all the way back down. And you may have tried to roll up and gotten stuck. That's okay. I don't really care what your roll up looks like, right? You can roll up and be like, ugh, ugh, grab your knee, rock yourself up, right? So you had trouble rolling up and it didn't really flow, right? That's fine, just get up. And then when you roll down, everybody can work the way down. And this is the more exciting part. So you're really gonna work scooping your belly in, tucking your tail under, and trying to get control of this downward movement. Because that's where we're gonna build strength in our roll up, is in the roll down, right? So roll up, use whatever you need to use to get yourself to come all the way up to the seated position. Round over your thighs, sit nice and tall, and then roll down. Start to tuck your tail under. Imagine you could set one vertebra down on the mat at a time. Keep scooping under, go as slow as you can with as much control as you can, and lay all the way down. Let's do this 2 more times, just exploring, right? We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking for exploration. Curl chin towards chest, drop the ribs, roll up however you need to roll up. Reach forward, take a little stretch, sit nice and tall, and then roll your spine all the way back down. Tuck the tail under, find control, scoop, right? So if you started rolling up and down and you felt like your spine was just one big segment, you're just looking for it to turn into maybe 2 segments after the end of your roll ups and roll downs, right? So whatever you started with, you're just looking for a little bit of improvement on that, right? And then last time, sit tall, and then roll all the way back down with as much control as you can manage. Fantastic. Go ahead and let your arms come down by your sides. You're gonna bend your knees so that your feet are flat and your knees are bent. There is an exercise that we do in Pilates called the 100, and it's a breathing exercise. I'm gonna teach it in this position, and it has progressions that can make it more difficult. We're gonna start in a pretty basic supported position here. So I'm gonna explain a little bit more before we do what we're gonna do. I want you to breathe in for 5 counts and then breathe out for 5 counts. And your goal is to occupy that whole 10 counts with breath, right? So breathe in for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and breathe out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the difference now is that we're going to take that same breath pattern, in for 5, out for 5. We're going to do it while our head, neck, and chest are curled up to the tips of the shoulder blades. So you're looking down at your belly button, right between your inner thighs, and you're lifted. You're going to try really hard not to change this position right here. Arms are like a couple inches off the mat. So while you're breathing in for 5 counts and out for 5 counts, you're gonna pump your arms like you're slapping water, right? So my whole arm is moving from my shoulder to the tempo that I'm breathing, right? In for 5 counts and out for 5 counts. Okay, that was practice. Now you can lay down. We're gonna do the real thing in a second. Now I'll count you through it, right? So, right, arms are pumping in 2, 3, 4, 5, and out 2, 3, 4, 5. That's about the tempo that we're gonna go. All of the while, head and chest are lifted. You're looking down into your belly button. Okay, so here we go. Deep inhale to prepare. Exhale, curl up to the tips of the shoulder blades. Arms about 2 inches off the floor, and breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 3. And out 3, 4, 5, 4. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And out 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, and relax. Great job. Those are not easy, even in this very supported position. They're still really hard. So if by the end of that you were like, oh, I just feel like my neck was working so hard, right? That's the thing, and it's very common. And it happens generally when we don't lift high enough, right? So if you lift to like just shoulders off the floor, but you can't really see down into your belly button, right? Your neck is super working right here. So if you curl up a little higher, your neck won't be working so hard, right? Not always easy and not always available. So what I like to do is really center myself on my mat, grab the corners of my mat with my fingers, and then I bring the sides of the mat up a little bit with my arms. And then I pull those corners to lift my head, neck, and chest so that I'm lifted high, but my head is supported, right? I'm almost like pulling myself forward with my mat, right? So there are going to be a lot of places where we ask for the head, neck, and chest to lift. And if you're like, oh, it was so much neck work for me, right? Grab the corners of your mat and do this, right? Bring your legs up, bring your legs down, right? Whatever we're doing with the head, neck, and chest lifted to build some strength in your abs, you're just gonna use that little trick with the mat until you feel like you don't need to anymore, right? Okay, so enough of that. We're gonna lay your head down. You're gonna keep your head down. Give your neck a rest. You're gonna bring one leg at a time into tabletop, right? So that was the 90-degree angle at the knee, knee over the hip, foot in front of the knee. You're gonna keep that leg in tabletop. You're gonna keep your spine nice and neutral, a little light space underneath your low back, and you're gonna bring your left leg also to tabletop. So both legs are lifted. 2 legs are heavier than 1 leg. A little bit more core needs to engage to keep your back where you want it, to keep your spine in control and in neutral. So glue your legs together. Now open your arms out to like a T shape or wider than your mat, whatever your space allows. You're gonna lift your right hip off your mat, and you're gonna let both legs sway to the left, right? They're gonna go maybe halfway to the floor, or maybe even not halfway to the floor, maybe just a little bit over, because you want to maintain control, right? You don't wanna like uncontrollably fall towards the floor. You wanna have some sense of control. You're gonna use your belly to draw yourself back to center. You're gonna do the other side. Lift your left hip to bring the knees to the right, maybe halfway towards the floor. Maybe this side is different from your other side. And back to center. Same thing to the left. Lift your right hip, both knees sway to the left. And back to center. Lift your left hip, both knees sway to the right. And back to center. Good. You're gonna do one more. Right hip to the left, knees to the left. And back down. I lied, you're gonna do one more. And left hip lifts and knees to the right. Excellent. So that was just a little spinal twist. You're going to set your left foot down on the mat. Leave your right leg in tabletop where it is. And you're going to leave your arms in this wider position. So now if you had a paintbrush on your knee or a marker on your knee that was pointing straight up to the ceiling, I want you to draw a pretty small circle with that marker or paintbrush on the ceiling. And I want you to think about keeping the rest of your body really still. So you're focusing on circling your thigh bone in the hip socket without that movement translating anywhere else in your body for right now. Yeah? So I always picture like a big wooden soup spoon, like stirring in a pot. You want to have that amount of independence of the thigh bone from the pelvis. Go ahead and reverse that circle. And there's, it's not free of work, right? There's still some work to be had here, especially in trying to stabilize the spine. So use your breathing and really connect your exhale to the sense of stability that it might give you through your core, right? Where you're feeling your belly engage a little bit. That helps to keep your spine and your pelvis stable. Good. One more circle in this direction. You've drawn or painted a bunch of circles on your ceiling. Lower your right foot down. You're going to do the same thing with the other side because, legs are different, one from each other. And so we're just exploring how the legs feel, right? Put your marker or your paintbrush on your knee and draw circles on the ceiling with that paintbrush, right? So thigh bone circling in the hip socket. And just try to feel that mobility there. Notice if it feels different from the other side, and maybe even notice how it feels different from the other side. Do you feel more connected, like your leg just knows what to do here? That's a thing. Go ahead and reverse. And out to the side and circle. Good. Some good self-tactile cues to use are like hands, fingertips. I like to go thumb and middle finger. Thumb goes on the tips of my ribs and middle finger goes on the front of my pelvis. And that way I can tell, like, kind of just through awareness, what type of movement or what type of stability I'm able to achieve between the rib to hip area, right? So put your hands on your body. Feel free to give yourself those tactile cues because they're really helpful. Go ahead and pause. Let that foot go back down. So now you're going to try a straight leg circling rather than a bent leg. So you're going to bring your right leg to tabletop. And you're going to straighten your right leg up to the ceiling. And that action in and of itself may prove pretty challenging, just straightening the leg up, depending on how tight your legs are, right? So if you're like, oh, that's definitely not happening without me distorting my whole spinal situation, right? You're going to keep your knee bent, and that's perfect. You're just going to work with trying to find more mobility in the hip. But if you straightened your leg and you're like, I think I can do that, right? Your back stayed neutral, your belly engaged, then you're going to put a little marker on your big toe. We're going to draw some nice small circles on the ceiling, like appetizer plate sized, right? That's kind of the shape that I'm thinking right now. And so just feel how the longer leg is heavier than the shorter leg. Yeah. And then reverse your circle. And it's more work. It's more work in your leg to have the leg long, and it's more work in your core to support the long leg, right? And so you're circling, you're exploring, and then you're gonna bend the knee, you're gonna set the foot down, and you're gonna switch sides, right? And you may come out of that position and realize, oh, I totally rounded my low back into the mat and distorted my shape. That's okay. Just like notice these things. You can do stuff about it later, but just noticing is really the first step in making a change, right? So bring your left leg to tabletop. Try to maintain your nice neutral spine. Straighten your left leg up to the ceiling. Keep maintaining that nice neutral spine. And then circle, right? Draw a little appetizer plate size circles. Stability through your core translates to mobility in your hip. That's kind of what we're getting at here, right? All this stability in the core generally translates to more mobility in the hips, more mobility in the shoulders. Go ahead and reverse. And the more we practice this core stability, the more you'll find that your hips and your shoulders kind of get permission to release. Good, and go ahead and bend the knee, set the foot down, and relax. Sway your knees right and left. All right, this just feels good. We like to do things that just feel good too. Not everything has to be so precise or an exercise. And I would encourage you to think about not in terms of like perfection or that you need to be in a certain place, because everybody's body is different, right? And so we're all going to take on this work a little bit differently. So if something feels wrong to you, it might be wrong for your body, and play around with it and see if you can make it feel right. And also you're just looking for noticing what your body does when you put it in certain positions. You're not looking for like perfection or change immediately, right? Just think of this as an exploration. Every day is different. And you will find that your body rearranges over time, and it will be in different places over time. So just noticing all these things is the most important thing, I think. All right, so you are going to pull your knees into your chest, wrap yourself up to a seated position, and you're gonna sit on your mat with your legs out in front of you. And your feet can be a little bit wider than your hips. And you want to try to feel that you can sit as straight up as possible, which maybe means that your knees need to bend, right? My knees are bent here because I can really feel that if my knees are bent, I'm right on top of my sit bones. And I like pull my butt cheeks out of the way so I can really feel my sit bones. So feel free to do that, right? And then you can think about, oh, okay, can I keep this nice straight spine and straighten my legs? The answer might be no, right? Which is fine. Or you might be like, oh, that's more work than I want to do right now. That's okay too. Bend your knees, but just be on top of your sit bones, right? You're going to take your arms and you're going to reach your arms forward. And we worked before on rolling the spine back through mobility, but instead here we're going to roll the spine forward to find mobility. So I want you to take a deep inhale, and you're going to exhale, pull your belly button back and round your upper spine forward over your thighs. And then stack your spine nice and tall as you exhale, right? Deep inhale, and exhale, round forward, hollow your belly back as your upper body tries to reach forward. And then stack your spine nice and tall. You're going to keep going, thinking about pulling the belly back in opposition to the upper body reaching forward. And then stack the spine. I always think of like in the Roadrunner cartoons, when one of the characters would get like a cannonball to the belly, and the belly goes back, but the upper body goes forward, right? That's what I imagine when I'm doing this. So you can make up your own images, or you can use that one. You're going to pull your belly back. You're going to reach forward with the upper body, be the cartoon character with the cannonball, and then stack your spine nice and tall. You're going to do that 2 more times. Exhale, round forward, and then stack the spine. Try to relax your shoulders the whole time. Try not to let them start to creep up to your ears. 1 more. You're going to exhale, hollow your belly back and round your upper body forward. And then stack your spine nice and tall. Beautiful. You're going to scoot your buns forward. So we can put that in the category of spinal mobility, right? So we've done a bunch of like tucking the tail under, rolling the spine up, that rounding the spine forward. They're kind of all part of the same family of spinal mobility. And then when we had the leg up to the ceiling and we were circling, that's spinal stability, right? So we're still like falling into those two categories of mobility or stability through the spine and what that requires from our core. So from here, we're going to do a little bit more spinal mobility. There is a lot of spinal mobility in Pilates. We try to balance it out with a lot of spinal stability as well. So hands on the front of the shins. You're going to sit really nice and tall. And then you're just going to roll back behind your sits bones. So you're going to scoop your belly under, tuck your tail, feel your belly work, right? Belly button pulls back. You're going to bring your right leg towards your chest, like knee towards your armpit or knee towards your collarbone. And then left foot is going to also come off the floor. And you are now balancing on that space just behind your sits bones. It should feel like a little bit of belly work, or maybe even a little bit unstable, where your pelvis is kind of rocking forward and back and you're trying to find the position, right? The more you can think about pulling your pubic bone towards your forehead, the more stability you might feel. Your hands are going to go behind your knees, right? And your elbows are going to lift out wide. You're going to try to relax your shoulders. So this is your shape. And you're thinking like, I'm a ball, right? You look like a ball. So be the ball. You're going to rock your ball shape to the middle of your shoulder blades, and then you're going to rock back up to this same position and try to find balance. Okay, so just have fun with it. We're going to do it together. We're going to do like 5 or 6. So you're going to roll back, look at your belly button, don't take your eyes off your belly button, and then roll back up. If your feet hit the floor and you like overshoot your roll, that's fine. No big deal, right? A few more times. Roll back and forward. Keep your eyes on your belly button or you start to become like the turtle on its back that can't get up, right? Roll back and forward. Be the ball. Roll back and forward. Couple more times. Back and forward. Last one. Roll back. Roll forward. Hold this position right here. Just look at your belly button. Try to draw your heels as close to your booty as you can. Try to keep your ball shape. Try to stay upright. It's kind of hard. The closer your feet get to your body, the more you have to work your belly to hold your position. Good. Hold it here. Bring your hands to the front of your ankles. Hold that. Pull your knees in more. Can you bring your knees together? And then lay all the way back down. And go ahead and relax. Nice job. You're going to turn onto your belly with your hands stacked underneath your forehead. Just checking the time. Okay. Hands stacked underneath your forehead. And your legs out long behind you. You're going to try to open the front of your hips, right? And just feel that the front of your hips are as flat on the mat as they can be. And then your chest and head are down, elbows are wide. So what I want you to think about doing, we worked on this a little bit last time also, is that you're gonna think about a book on the back of your head. So I'm gonna put my head down in my hands and I'm gonna picture a big heavy book on the back of my head. From here, I'm going to try to lift my head off of my hands without letting the book fall off, right? So it ends up being a small lift, and I'm still really just looking down at my hands. I haven't looked forward towards the end of my mat because then the book would fall off, right? So you're going to keep looking down at your hands, and then you're going to lower your head back down. And you're going to do the same thing again. Press the head up. And lower the head down. Let's do that a few more times. Lift the head up. And lower back down. And lift. And lower. And lift. And lower. You're going to continue doing the same thing, but you're going to put a little bit of pressure down into your elbows as you lift your head up. So here we go. Press down through the elbows, lift the head up, same thing, right? But now maybe you're feeling a connection by pressing down through your elbows to your under armpits, and then lower all the way back down. Press down through the elbows, float the head up, and lower back down. A few more times. Down through the elbows, float the head up, and lower back down. Once more. Down through the elbows, float the head up, and hold it here. You're going to bring your hands to your forehead, and you're also going to lift your forearms off the mat, right? So hands to the forehead, and lift the elbows. And then lower the whole thing back down. Same thing again. You're going to float the head up, pause, right? You're already pressing down through the elbows to connect to the under armpits. Now just stay in those muscles as you bring your hands to your forehead, and then let your elbows float off the mat. And then lower everything back down. Do it 2 more times. You're going to float your forehead up. Gentle pressure down through the elbows, then bring the hands, then bring the elbows, and then lower back down. And one more, lift the head up, bring the hands up, bring the elbows up, and lower all the way back down. Awesome. So just for comparison, right? We're going to reach the arms overhead, and we're going to try to do some long arm lifting. That is significantly more challenging usually than doing a bent elbow lift. So don't feel discouraged. Let it be harder, right? So reach your arms overhead, and I'm going to say pinky fingers aligned with the corners of your mat is a great place to start. And then as much as you can, you're going to lay your chest down and open your armpits towards the floor, right? So you're trying to be as flat as your body is going to allow you to be. Now from here, I want you to press down through your left pinky finger and then lift your right arm up and lower back down. You're going to try the same thing on the other side. Press down through the right pinky finger and lift the left arm up. You're getting a lot of commentary from my dog today. You're going to go left pinky finger presses down into the mat and lift the right arm up and lower back down. Right pinky finger presses down into the mat to lift the left arm up and back down. Now we're going to add the opposite leg lifting to the arm lifting, right? And that gets pretty exciting. So you're going to try to keep spine nice and neutral. And we're really looking for spinal stability here, right? So we're going to ask the spine to stay in the same shape the whole time, which generally means don't let your low back go into like super arch, right? No like super butt up and then low back down. Try to keep your hips really open on the mat in front of you. So we're going to take it in pieces. Press down through your left pinky finger, lift your right arm up. Press down through your right leg to lift your left leg up. And then ask, is your spine still in the same shape or has it changed? And then lower everything back down. Good. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Press down through the right pinky finger, lift the left arm up. Press down through the right or left leg to lift the right leg up. And then lower back down. Good. We're going to try to go just a little bit faster. You're going to lift right arm, left leg at the same time. And down. And left arm, right leg. So notice that this is the same crossbody pattern that we were working on lying on our back at the very beginning of class. Right here it shows up in, right? This looks like something you might do when you're swimming. And back down. And other side. And down. And right leg, left arm. And down. And keep going. And down. And lift. And lower. One more. And lower. Good. Go ahead and press back into child's pose. So just lift yourself up. Let your hips shift back. And your arms reach forward. If this is not a comfortable rest position for you, you can put like a pillow behind your knees, and that will make your knees not need to bend so much, and you can still kind of relax back into this stretch, right? But if you feel okay, just dropping your chest down between your thighs, you're gonna do that. Hips close to your heels. Walk both hands over to the right side of your mat so that you're gonna stretch through your left side body a little bit more. Deep breaths into this side body, left side body. And then left hand back to the left side of your mat. Right hand comes on top of your left hand. And you side bend this way. Good. Okay, you are going to, I'm going to do 2 things before we end class. You're going to lie down on your left side. We're going to do a little bit of lateral stability. Okay, so this is just a variation of the spinal stability that we have been talking about throughout class, except we're lying on our side. So different muscle systems are going to work to help keep you lying down on your side. Your knees are bent in front of you, and your feet are together. And your head is down on your arm. So your hips, your shoulders, head, hand are kind of all in the same line, like you're lying down on a balance beam. And then from there, you're going to straighten your top leg and reach it long to the end of your mat. So now you've added your foot to that alignment, hip, shoulder, head, hand. You've noticed maybe that it makes your bottom waist a little bit lighter on your mat. And you're going to keep your bottom waist that light. You're going to try to keep your hips and shoulders stacked. And you're going to lift your top leg up and then lower it back down. And because we're asking for the bottom waist to stay the same, that gives you a range of motion, right? It kind of tells you like, oh, if you lift higher than this moment, you have to drop your waist into the floor to get that height. Just don't let yourself go that high, right? You're just working with stability, right? And so this is part of stability here, is just keeping that bottom waist nice and light on the mat. So you're gonna lift the leg hip height, you're gonna hold it there. You're gonna bring the leg forward, trying not to round your back to bring the leg forward. You're going to sweep the leg back, trying not to let your shoulders go forward to bring the leg back, right? So try not to let your tail curl under. Don't let your low waist collapse to bring the leg forward. And don't let your shoulders roll forward to bring the leg back. So you're going to stay on your little balance beam as you bring the leg forward. Stay on your balance beam as you sweep the leg back. 2 more times. Forward and back. And last one, forward and back. Excellent job. Go ahead and bend your knee. Stack both knees. Use your hands to help you come up. You're going to take your right hand, grab your ankles, and you're going to do a nice little side stretch. And then you're going to switch sides. Legs come around. And you lie down on your right side. You're going to go hand, shoulder, head, hips, and then feet. All in the same line, balancing on the balance beam, right? So your knees are just outside of that alignment. You're going to straighten your top leg. Set that long leg on your balance beam. Keeps your bottom waist light on the mat. And you're going to keep the waist light, right? So self-tactile cue here would be free hand or top hand coming underneath your waist, bottom waist, and making sure that it stays where you want it to stay as you lift and lower your leg, right? The more stable you can be through your waist here, the more you're going to work your top butt, which is really what we're after, right? So a little bit of hip stability. We can think about our hips as part of our core too, right? Everybody talks about the core, but not very many people define the core. And when they do define it, they're all talking about something slightly different, right? So we can, not put too much weight on that word core, other than to say that it's a whole system of muscles that helps to keep your spine stable. That's what we'll define the core as, right? And then bring the leg forward, keep your spine stable, sweep the leg back, keep your spine stable. Yep, forward and back. And keep going forward and back and forward and back. And two more. Just the work of keeping the leg hip height is a fair amount of leg work, hip work. Beautiful. Go ahead and lower down. Bend the knees, stack the knees. Use your hands to help you come up. Left hand grabs the ankles, and you just take a nice little side stretch over to the side here. And then you're going to come back up. And you're going to turn onto your hands and your knees. We call this all fours position or quadruped, but it really just means you're on your hands and your knees, right? Reverse tabletop, some people call it. All of them mean the same thing. You're going to go hands directly underneath your shoulders in both directions. So try not to be hands forward of the shoulders and try not to be hands narrower or hands wider than the shoulders. See if you can plant them directly underneath your shoulders, because this is a much more stable shoulder and wrist joint than this, right? It's like you would walk onto the pier only if the pillars on the pier were going straight up and down. You'd not want to walk on it if those pillars were diagonal, right? So think about the same thing in your body. And then we're gonna also do that with the hips. So I want you to think about your knees directly underneath your hips, creating a nice stable shape. So from here, we're gonna do, again, that nice crossbody pattern, but instead of our back or our belly being supported by the floor, now we're doing all of it with our own muscles. So it's a little bit different, right? You're gonna extend your leg back behind you, but keep the toes on the floor. And I went right leg first, but you can go right or left, it doesn't matter. When I did that, I tried to keep my hips from moving around. So bend the knee back in, try the other side. I'm gonna try to extend the leg without moving the hips. Right? If I moved the hips and I extended the leg, it would look like this or like this, right? I'm exaggerating, but you kind of get the idea. So you're gonna go right leg back again. See if you can extend the leg without the pelvis or the spine moving, and bring it back under you, right? Spinal stability here. Extend the left leg and bring it back in. We're gonna go arms down, same idea, spinal stability. Right arm reaches forward and fingertips touch the floor. Yep, and then back down. And then left arm reaches forward, fingertips touch, and back down. Try it one more time each side. You'll feel your weight shift on the knees, side to side, but your spine doesn't move. So now we're just gonna do arm and leg together, right? We're back to that cross body movement that we kind of keep coming back to. So let's go. Right leg, left arm, toes back, fingers forward, spine stays the same. And then back down. Other side, fingers forward, toes back, and down. One more each side. And down. And last one. And down. Now we're going to do some spinal mobility. You're going to round your spine up to the ceiling. Let this be work for your belly, right? Lift your belly button towards your spine to round your spine up. And then extend your spine where you lift your face and you lift your tail, right? Spinal extension. And then round, spinal flexion. Mobility. Spinal extension. mobility with support. And round, flexion. And extension. And flexion. Couple more. Extension. And flexion. Good. Go ahead and shift your hips back towards your heels. Take a nice little moment to breathe. And you folks are all done. Great job. So we just incorporated what we learned about spinal